hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I, of course, am Mr. Warren Hayes. I hope you are all ready to talk about some professional wrestling right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes or on your favorite podcast app. Listen, we are recording this on September? January 17th. Hold your horses there, Warren. The year's just begun. We're recording this on January 17th. Which was on the day that we received news on the passing of Jay Briscoe. It happened live as I was recording, so you may hear some references in regards to this. Of course, our thoughts and prayers go to Mark and the entire Pugh family as well. Just a tragic loss. Details are still coming in, so at the moment where I'm recording this, still. I'm unsure of what happened, but from what we understand, it is an accident and it was sudden, and it is a tragic loss to the world of wrestling. Thinking to lose Jay Briscoe at the age of 38, my thoughts are with the entire Pugh family. We will be talking more about the life and exploits of Jay Briscoe next week on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. But for now, we got a packed show nonetheless. First and foremost, listen, I wouldn't mind if you'd leave a like here on the video to start things off. Maybe even subscribe to the channel if you want. That way you won't miss a thing. You won't miss a Mr. Warren Hayes Show, or you won't miss my AEW Dynamite reviews either, which I do every Thursday right here as well on the channel or on your favorite podcast application. Yes. All the audio that I record here is also available on your favorite podcast feeds. So on Apple Podcasts, you could leave a 5-star review if you wanted to. On Spotify, you could leave a 5-star rating if you wanted to. And all these little things help the podcast grow tremendously, so I appreciate it in advance if you could do so. You can also join the Mr. Warren Hayes Show Discord. The link is in the description. If you'd like to talk pro wrestling with some more pro wrestling fans, that would be great. But we're going to be talking about pro wrestling tonight regardless. We've got a big show. We are going to be, a big update on everything that's going on with Vince McMahon and the shakeups in WWE. There's a lot of stuff still going on. We're talking about Cody coming back at the Royal Rumble, a review of Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill, and some New Japan show previews. We got a lot of stuff coming up. We're going to get all into it right now. Let's get to it. Thank you very much for being here. Let's go right ahead and begin this program with the usual, just the weekly wrestling inspection. No big deal. Boy, oh boy, last week. Am I right? Last week. But boy, last week, we were in the process of some breaking news, right? When we started off the show, everything was nice and tidy, and I had everything all lined up. I had all my ducks in a row. And then Stephanie McMahon decides that she's resigning from her spot as co-CEO of WWE. And then the internet explodes with rumors in regards to a sale of WWE being finalized with a foreign investment power group, country, kingdom. Just a chaotic week it was last week. Just absolute chaos. And this, all sort of culminated last Friday. Paul Levesque, a.k.a. Trips. He had a meeting at SmackDown telling everyone, chill the fuck out. He told the talent, everyone calm the hell down. He led this meeting just reminding everyone that Vince McMahon he's only spearheading efforts to determine if the company should be sold and who it should be sold to. Okay? That's all there is to it. Nothing more serious than that. So don't worry, folks, is what he was saying. And he squashed the sale of WWE, saying, no, there's nothing in place. We're not being sold to Saudi Arabia. There's nothing in place. So everyone relax. Go out there and have yourselves a good show now, okay? And he also added that he stressed, I should say, that McMahon's return to the company did not impact the creative team or the creative process, although he did mention that anything can change. He also said that while he and Vince may have discussions about WWE creative, Vince always defers to him for the final say, because they may occasionally just, call up the phone, but pick up the phone. It's like, just, hey, what you doing? Not much, just getting the show ready. Did you really have to get rid of Austin Theory's selfies? Yeah, Vince, it kind of sucked. All right, well, I defer to you. So I'm sure that's exactly how it goes, right? I'm sure that's how it goes. Bill Bodkin, nice to see you. And Beep Boop, nice to see you both. So this is the thing that fascinates me in this circumstances is that, look, Triple H is saying, it's like, don't worry, everything is okay. But, anything can happen in the WWF, essentially. I have my job right now, but who knows what's going to happen in a week, in a couple of weeks, in a month. I don't know. You think I'm in charge now? And look, and I'm running a poll right now in the chat as we're doing this live, because I want to know what people think about Vince and his position, how things are going to develop moving forward regarding Vince and creative, right? Because that's what's on everybody's lips. That's what everyone wants. Is Vince going to be back in charge of creative, right? Is he going to do it? So, I've been told multiple times by people that we should all rest assured because Vince is not here to take things back. He's not here to get back in charge of the company. He's not looking to get back into creative. Look, Triple H said it himself. Triple H is still in charge with creative. He may have talks with Vince, and I'm sure Vince defers quite a bit. I'm sure Vince is very conciliatory, because that's absolutely Vince McMahon's primary character trait, right? It's like, I am, he is in absolute agreement with what everyone says, right? That he doesn't challenge. He doesn't necessarily want things done his own specific way. He's not vindictive or wants to, seek out, retribution for things that have happened to him in the past. No. That's Vince is a bygones be bygones kind of guy, right? So of course, if he's talking with Triple H in regards to creative, I'm sure, convinced that all of Vince's ideas are taken into consideration, but Triple H ultimately has he calls it down the middle and he says, Vince, I can't do this idea. Vince, I can't bring Shanky back. I can't bring Shanky back. I just can't. I'm sure, convinced. Well, gee, pal, where's Ezekiel? Well, he's right there. I'll tell him to shave his beard. Well, it took him a couple of weeks to grow it back, Vince, so we could put him back on TV. Shave it off. I want Ezekiel back. And, again, Triple H taking the time to tell everyone, don't worry. I'm still in charge. I'm still in place. Everything is going fine. We have to take that his word for it, right? We have to we have to find security in Triple H saying things are not necessarily going to change. Just like we could take solace in Stephanie McMahon and Nick Khan and Riddick, on their call with the employees a couple of weeks ago saying, nothing is going to change in day-to-day operations. And Vince saying, I have complete confidence in the management team. only for Stephanie to suddenly resign 2 days after, well, like the weekend, like a couple of days after, right? I would say 2 days, but I'm like 2 working days. But they always work at WWE. So of course we can find solace in all of that, right? I mean, it's not as if we've been told one thing and then the opposite has happened, right? No, of course not. Of course not. So smooth sailing. Trips goes into Raw and has the same type of speech with talent there. You know, it is the we're on the SS we're on the SS Helmsley doot doot going down the ocean of smooth creative sailing and you know, pulling in at the you know, on a few remote islands to pick up some extraordinary ideas and we're just moving on. And then today, Vince McMahon executes and delivers written consent stating that, well, when I say today, it was reported today, but he did this on the 16th, yesterday, January 16th, which is when we're recording this on the 17th. If you haven't deduced by now, in this written consent, stating that stockholders' approval is not required to approve his actions. I'm going to read this sweet, sweet article off of Post Wrestling from our boy Andrew Thompson. Shout out, Andrew. Miss you, buddy. On January 10, following Stephanie McMahon's resignation as co-CEO and chairwoman of WWE, Vince McMahon was voted back onto the board of directors to become the executive chairman of the board, while Nick Khan became the sole CEO of the company. I feel like we're you know, it's the start of a new episode of All My Children. So last time on WWE Succession, the following day, Scott Fellows, who holds Class A common stock in WWE, filed a class action complaint against Vince, claiming that he continuously abused his power as CEO. This suit was filed in Delaware's Chancery Court. In a new SEC filing, it is noted that on January 16, Vince, in his capacity to do so as controlling stockholder of WWE, quote, executed and delivered a written consent, which it will now be referred to as the January 16th consent, taking certain actions by consent without a meeting in accordance with Section 228 of the GDL to substantially repeal the January 5th amendments. You will recall last week when we were breaking everything down, he brought in some amendments to the bylaws of the board saying that essentially no sale or no media rights deal could happen without Vince's approval. Now he just got all of that away, and it is noted that no further approval of the stockholders in WWE is required to approve any of McMahon's actions in accordance with the January 16th consent. So what I gather from this is, all right, if you say so, pal, because frankly, I don't see what this changes overall, because as we may recall, Vince McMahon is the majority owner of WWE. He owns 81% of the voting power of the company, 81, I think it's 81%, of the voting power of the stockholders. That's him. So even without, approval or whatnot, he's pretty much smooth sailing. He gets to decide just about anything regardless of how we're going. But here, he's being extremely bullish because he's effectively given himself all the power to do what he wants, notwithstanding the executives of the company, right? Because he is not, it's important always to remember, he's not an executive of the company. He is on the board of directors, right? Who give mandates to the executives to carry out in the day-to-day daily operations of the company. So So everything that is in the executive side falls into the mandate of the executive team, which is led by Nick Khan. But essentially what Vince is saying here is like, I can tell them to do whatever suits my whimsy, and I don't have to double check with you people. It's basically a you people promo. But he doesn't have to get approval from the stockholders. He just has to, file the proper paperwork, I guess, and it'll just happen. Now, as was mentioned in Andrew's article on Post Wrestling, there are class action lawsuits being initiated. There was one a couple of days ago, and now there's a new one that was initiated today, if I'm not mistaken, by the Detroit Police and Fire Retirement System. Two separate lawsuits for failing in fiduciary duty, if I'm not mistaken. Two separate lawsuits, but honestly, I'm not really sure what they can do. I don't think it can really block anything that Vince wants to do. I would assume, from what I understand, again, not necessarily my area of expertise, but when, you talk to people, you ask questions. I have people who work in these types of environments that I reach out to, and and they keep telling me, well, every jurisdiction. They always start off by saying, every jurisdiction is different, every company is different, but so all of this is it's a little grain of salt type of situation here. But if he's these types of lawsuits happen so that the shareholders can extract a little more money out of a situation from a company because of a situation that displeases them. So it's not necessarily something that will have effects on the board itself. Like if this was the SEC, if these were the feds coming in and they were starting to sniff around for fraud, well, now we're on a whole other different playing field here, because now we're getting federal prosecution coming in here. Now it's the shareholders saying, you're failing your duties to the people who are giving you money. So we want the money that you owe us. That's essentially what this is, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't see what this can do to block Vince, because he's moving forward to sell the company, right? Or rights deals or whatever. So it's something that can probably happen. Hear me out here. It's something that can happen fairly quickly. I'm not saying like in a flash, blink your eyes, sale is done, but it can be something that can happen fairly quickly, as opposed to sending a lawsuit to court where it has to be examined and a judge has to decide whether it can proceed and so on and so forth. And then you have the proceedings, and then you have the deliberation, and then you have the verdict. I mean, these things can take a while, and probably by the time these lawsuits are done, WWE is cozy comfy with either a new rights deal or a new owner or both. So my guess here, it's a way for their shareholders to get more money, I think. So Vince is just going to come in and do whatever he wants. And anyone who's surprised by this shouldn't, because it's Vince McMahon. This is I talked about it last week, and don't necessarily want to run down those points all over again, but this is a guy who is a fighter. This is a guy who stands up against all odds and is like, I'm going to pull through this. So what he's doing to me right now, for myself, it's not shocking. The most shocking part of what happened in this whole situation that started last year was him removing himself, or being removed from power. That was the most shocking thing to me. Because look, he's come in here, he set up his amendments, and what did he do? He got rid of, he removed or resigned board members. Jeffrey Speed, Joellen Lyons-Dillon, Alex Wexler, Manjit Singh, Ignace Lahoud, and Stephanie McMahon, who also is gone from the executive as well. She's hit the bricks. And now the board is comprised of Vince McMahon cronies or people he has very close relationships with. Like he's not expecting any resistance from the board moving forward. And just to make sure that it's clear that he's not expecting any resistance, he's like, hey, by the way, I don't even have to talk to the shareholders anymore. So the board is essentially meaningless right now. But everyone who's on the board are all pretty much on Vince's side. Look, we don't know exactly about Nick Khan or Triple H, but we would assume at the very least that they're on his good side, right? At the very basis, they're on his good side. Bringing in Wilson and Barrios, well, those are two pals, two people who just like, they'll say yes, Vince, yes, Vince, yes, Vince. That's all, and that's what he needs. That's all he wants. This is like Matt Hardy said. This is Vince McMahon playing Game of Thrones, and he's winning. And he is winning. And I promise you, if you think that Vince is going to stop here, if you sincerely believe that Vince came back for the sole purpose, the only purpose, to sell the company, I don't know what to tell you, but you have not been following the story of Vince McMahon for decades. This is what is in it? What is, I keep asking you all this question, and what is in it for Vince to come back and spearhead these efforts and get back into the company and start walking back into the office? What is it in it for Vince? Because Vince could have just waited for the executives to come with a proposal, and say, look, we're going to sell to this group here. And with the 81% majority rule that he has, it has to go through his approval regardless. So he could just be sitting back and going, all right, I'll sign it. Or just like, nope, go back to the drawing board. Let's do this again. That's all. But no, he has to come back and get involved. Why? Because Vince is all about control and power. It's his thing. It's his baby. It's his company. That this is all he's known. So I promise you, and I'm not saying this is going to happen, but if I were a magic 8-ball and you were to ask me, Warren, is Vince McMahon going to be back spearheading creative for WWE? If I were a magic 8-ball, I would answer all signs point to yes. Because everything he is doing is reestablishing himself as the sole guy of the company. The guy that you have to make happy. Raw and SmackDown were booked for him on his whims. It wasn't for the demo. It wasn't for the audience watching at home. It wasn't even for the audience paying tickets. It was for Vince. All of this is about Vince. And I'm sorry if you are you're backhandedly going, no way Vince is getting back in control. You're missing the point. And you're not going to look smarter if he does end up going, well, no, I'm not going to take over creative. Because the reasonable approach here, with everything we know about Vincent Kennedy McMahon, is that you have to expect him to want to get back on creative. You have to expect that because that's all he knows. That's what he wants. He would not be coming back if it's not to get back in power. What are we even talking about? Again, he could have stayed at home in his penthouse, in his condo, Now that Linda's gone, he could have just hung around there and wait for the money to run in. Because he still owns 81% of the company. He could have just waited. This is Vince McMahon being petty, vindictive, wanting the power, not accepting that he's been shoved away. He came back to Gorilla months ago. After he popped out on that SmackDown, he went back to Gorilla, lifted his hands and went, fuck him. Right? This is that Vince McMahon. So whether or not he goes back to creative, we'll have to wait and see. Like Alexa Bliss once told us, we have to let this play out. But the point here, which is crucial, and if you've been following the business and you've been following Vincent Kennedy McMahon's career, you know that it is likely that he will get back into power in WWE on the executive side, and he will likely take creative back. If it doesn't, okay, then I will be the first surprised. Because I was surprised last year. I can be surprised again. That's all I want. I just want to be shocked and surprised. But I will not be surprised if and when he gets back in control. Because yes, he is the pettiest man alive. He absolutely is. J.K. Schwal and Vape Ross Vape, both members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. Good to see you both. And then today, and here's another thing. Here's something else. If you don't think that he's not maneuvering. PWI and Pro Wrestling Insider and Fightful both confirmed some exits. So Adam Hopkins, who served as vice president of communications for WWE, is no longer with the company. Spent over 25 years on the payroll. A lot of people lamenting his departure. People working in media. Apparently, he was very good at his job and a nice guy. David Bixenspan over at Wrestling Inc. added a few more. Added a little context here, a little extra context. He says, by all appearances, according to the LinkedIn page, Hopkins worked for WWE his entire adult life. Among WWE's communications and public relations staff, he was best known in media circles as the point man for setting up interviews and arranging access to events. To fans, he's the guy who introduced Paul Levesque and Shawn Michaels on media calls. The Levesque calls started in 2014 at Hopkins' behest. He gradually climbed the company's ladder, starting as fan services coordinator in September 1997 and working his way up through the communications department, starting in February 2000, continuing to oversee fan services throughout. It wasn't until February 2022, though, that he landed a promotion to an executive role, gaining the vice president title that he held as of his departure. And then we got, on top of that, again, PW Insider and Fightful confirmed that VP of Communications, Stephanie Fiondella, was let go of WWE last week. And we're told now that Senior Vice President of Communications, Matt Altman, is now in a different department. This comes from Fightful. So Stephanie's gone. We've got these shakeups here. And don't forget, Stephanie was in charge of the public relations department, communications, right? She was the brand strategy officer. I don't remember what her title was, something to that effect. So this, to me, it all feels like people, look, these are Stephanie hires that are disappearing. This is my gut feeling. And is it because they were pushed out, or because they left because they knew that Stephanie McMahon was leaving, and they're like, yeah, you know what? Vince is back now. I'm out of here. We don't know. Well, honestly, we don't know. PW Insider and Fightful are saying that Fiondella was let go, so That's something. And she was a star player, and she left and came back in April this year. She came back in April. And now she's gone again. Or, like we are being told in the chat here by the very intelligent Bill Bodkin, they could be eliminating redundancies for a sale, which is absolutely possible. All these shakeups are significant, and they're all meaningful. And I will not be surprised if more heads keep rolling and more prominent heads keep rolling as we keep moving forward. Because don't forget, Vince wants in on this, and he wants in on this because he wants to secure protections for himself in whoever ends up owning WWE. Because technically speaking, and I was listening to WrestleNomics, and again, here we go. Here's the weekly WrestleNomics infomercial. Shout out Brandon. WWE, this, I'm not making this up. This is what I gleaned again listening to WrestleNomics this week. WWE technically has 3 paths to a sale. It has 3 paths that it can take, to a sale or in this environment here. They can either sell the company to a major outfit that has television. So, for instance, they could sell to NBC Universal, Comcast. They could sell to Fox. We're spitballing here. Disney. And they all own TV. So you get a nice big lump sum. You get the sale. The rights are in there because now they belong to the company, so on and so forth. So you get one big lump sum. So that's one track that exists. The second track that exists for a WWE sale is to be purchased by a company that does not own television. Endeavor. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The people who don't have broadcast outlets, cable outlets. So that would mean that they would be purchased, but then would have to negotiate media rights on top of that. So there'd be two things. The third option is WWE doesn't sell and renegotiates its media rights. Just like in the good old days of 2018, 2019. Just like in the good old days. Or was it 2020? But those are literally the 3 options that they have, right? And whatever happens in those 3 situations, Vince wants in on it, and he wants protections for himself. He wants to force his way back in. He's crowbarring his way back into the company. It's obvious. I don't know what to tell you if you didn't know, but it's kind of obvious to me. But again, as Alexa Bliss once told us, just let it play out. We'll see where it goes from here. Heavy J, nice to see you. And welcome to another exciting edition of the MrWarrenHayes Show. It's been exciting so far. Interesting question talking about, yes, indeed, Oreo. Interesting question asking if Triple H goes to start up his own promotion. I think we shouldn't underestimate the... Okay. You're Triple H. You're Jean-Paul Levesque. And you're like, I'm going to start up my wrestling company, right? Is your target to start up your wrestling company and, work, and work the ECW arena in Philadelphia? Is that your target? Is that what you want to do? I would assume not. I would say that is not what you want to do if you are Triple H, Paul Levesque. I think that you want to work, you want to be in the big leagues. You want to be on TV because that's what the talent that you have good relationships with, the talent who believes in you, who you trained, who had you had a hand in elevating, they all want to be on TV, right? So you're starting with nothing. You've got nothing. You don't have the executive staff. You don't have the people to pay. You don't even have a goddamn ring to your name. You don't even have a ring bell. You don't even have a turnbuckle. You don't have the trucks to move the production around. You don't have anything. And then on top of it all, you're not contracting talent and you don't have a TV deal. And who's going to negotiate that? That's a lot of fucking money. That is a lot of money. And I think a lot of people who sit back and go, well, Triple H will go start off his thing, are thinking that Triple H will be happy to run an indie. But he will not be. And he will not be able to get to have whatever talent he would be able to poach from WWE. I don't think he would have the. I don't think he'd have the. Well, it's not even. I don't think he wouldn't have the all the reasons to bring the talent with him because they'd be off TV. They'd be running small venues. They wouldn't be on television, right? I said that already. But that's the point. It demands such an influx of money and logistical. It's and logistical imaginations to pull out that. I don't think people realize just how complicated it is to run an indie show, much less a show on the scale that WWE and AEW put on a week-to-week basis. The resources are incredible. So it's not just Triple H knows the talent and he'll start off a show on the side. I don't even think he has the person that, and then he'd have to invest his money into this. He'd have to put his own money. And Triple H has always played with the house's money up until this point, if you understand my meaning. It's never been his cash. He's always been playing with Vince's cash, right? So for him, I don't think he's never run something himself where it's his money on the line. It's his nuts on the line. It's always been Vince's money. It's Vince's resources. They all take care of that. All I get to do is sit down and plan out matches and plan out matches and storylines. That's all I have to do and book pay-per-views. That's my job. Fun. It's fun. I like my job. It's fun. And I'm sure he realizes this. I'm not saying that Triple H is stupid and then he's like, I'm going to start my own promotion. No, au contraire. I think he's smart enough to realize that he himself doesn't have the know-how to pull this off. And I've even seen, he could buy Impact. Sure, he could. If he really want, it's pro wrestling. Okay. But again, why? Why would Triple H content himself to that when he has been involved in the market leader, the worldwide leader, the worldwide brand in professional wrestling / sports entertainment? It's an interesting question to ask, but I think, outside of fantasy booking and fan hopes, which, have their own place and are fine, and I don't have a problem with it. You can do all the fantasy booking you want. You can cross your fingers and pray every night that Triple H starts off his own wrestling promotion, and that's fine. But logistically speaking, he can't do this alone. He needs backing. He needs a solid logistics partner behind him to do that. This is something that he can't do alone, even if he's been running the creative for NXT and WWE. This is a whole other 9 yards because now he's going to be playing with his own money. So it's different. It's all different. Never say never, but out the gate, holy smokes, it's a tough one. It's a tough one to imagine. Let's put it that way. It's a good question though. Hey, Cody's coming back. Did y'all hear? Cody Rhodes is coming back, and he's announced himself as an entrant into the Royal Rumble 2023. He announced it last night on Raw, Monday Night Raw. The highlight of which was Brandy Rhodes back on television. We're back on TV doing this, doing the Cody rehabilitation vignettes, getting back into shape that they've been doing for 2-3 weeks now, something to that effect. And then they cap it off last night. You see what all these vignettes were leading to. They were leading to Cody announcing that he will be back in shape, tip top, 100%. Just a scar where the infernal damage was around his pectoral muscle. He will be back for the Royal Rumble, much to the dismay of the WWE faithful, as we were talking about. That's what a lot of people sat around and were like, holy shit, Cody is not a surprise entrant. And it bothered a lot of people. Whereas, if you ask me, I would have announced him being in the Rumble. Why would you keep that as a surprise? It's not even a surprise. It's not a surprise. We all know Cody's coming back. They've been hyping it for weeks. He's on the goddamn poster of the Royal Rumble. I don't know why everyone is like, WWE fans are so disappointed in it. They should have kept it as a surprise. But why? What's the incentive to keep it as a surprise? I would have announced it. And then because you get people excited is what people tell us, right? It's like, oh, well, you have people, you get more people, people will get excited and then they'll tune in to watch the program. I'm like, sure, but what if you tell people ahead of time and get them to fill out the building? The Royal Rumble, if I'm not mistaken, it's a near, we're close to 30,000. We're close to 36,000, a full house, right? There's like a couple of thousand tickets left. What if there were some people in the holdout, right? What if some people were just holding out tickets and Cody's the one that puts them over? Better yet, what if there's more people who tune in to the WWE network on the award-winning Peacock? I mean, that's also something that you want. You want people to get excited. They want to see, why would you not promote his return? And this thing about, they don't do surprises anymore. There's still possibility. There's still 29 other possibilities for surprises in the Royal Rumble. I think this makes sense. It makes sense to get people talking. It creates some buzz over the Royal Rumble. Look, now it's like, oh, Cody's in the Royal Rumble, so on and so forth. Now people are all readjusting their expectations. Like, oh, well, now that Cody's in the Rumble, he's probably going to win. When I have been saying from the start, Cody Rhodes will probably win the Royal Rumble. And this is where we're at right now. So, he's fine. And I think this is a good business decision. And I have people going, oh, well, now that Cody's announced that he's coming back, clearly The Rock is a surprise now. And I'm like, what is this jump in logic? What? Now The Rock is definitely winning the Royal Rumble. I was like, what? What is going? I don't understand. I'm going to get back to writing soon because I do have an article in my mind and I need to write it. I need to put that out, but I want to wait till the Royal Rumble passes because I need more context to it. I need a few more elements, a few more ingredients to this gravy here before we can move on. But moving back here, I don't understand why people want The Rock in. I don't understand why they want him to win the Royal Rumble. I mean, why do you want that? Oh, but Warren, don't you understand? It puts eyeballs on the product and gets the casual fan in. Well, as a casual fan, I agree. Like if John Cena shows up, I will tune in to watch. But tell me, how many more eyeballs will your show get if Rock wins the Royal Rumble or not? Or even if he's on the Royal Rumble card. What if he's on Monday Night Raw, the night after? What if he's there? That'll generate buzz. And here's the other thing. Here's something that might blow your mind at the same time. Here's something that just might, explode your capacities here. If I have The Rock secure for an appearance on my wrestling program, I'm promoting the hell out of it. Sorry to say. I'm not saving that one in my back pocket as a surprise. Sorry to say, because for the same reasons that people tell me, Warren, it will attract the casuals if he shows up as a surprise. It will attract the casuals if he's scheduled to be there. They will come. And that's what you want. A surprise at the Royal Rumble works absolutely best for wrestling fans if you bring in someone from wrestling as a surprise, right? Like Mickie James last year. People go, wee, it's Mickie James, And that makes the wrestling fan happy, but it doesn't necessarily do anything for the casual viewer. That's why there's no reason to announce Mickie James ahead of time, really, although they did it, but you know what I mean? Like she's a surprise. That's the type of surprises that work. You want a surprise? I'm still convinced the Great Muta is going to be in the Royal Rumble. I'm ready to put down 10 Canadian rubber bucks that they're going to do it. That Muta's going to show up on the Royal Rumble. Convinced. And then people are going to be like, New Japan working with WWE. And I'll be like, no, it's not New. It's not New Japan. It's not New Japan. It's not New Japan. It's not New Japan, But this is where we're at, right? Okay. So the point here that I'm trying to make is that there's no real surprise to Cody Rhodes being in the Royal Rumble. It should not have been saved as a surprise. It would have been a terrible surprise. It would have been a situation where people are more along the lines of, well, isn't this great? Cody's back. That's how you have to be. Cody's back, and because it's not a surprise. They've been planning his return. That's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. We're preparing his return. It's not a surprise. Jesus Christ. I don't know why people are so addicted to surprises. I know, it's become part of the Royal Rumble, I've been told, right? I want a good Royal Rumble this year. I don't give a shit about surprises. I thought the Royal Rumble last year stunk. I want a good one this year. Do that instead. Focus on giving me something that's fun. Focus on elevating people. That's what it's about. And the Royal Rumble didn't stink last year because there were no surprises. It was just bad. It was poorly booked. It was bad. Right? That was the Shane McMahon one that had to be torn down and rebooked. Come talking to me about it's legitimately the WWE pay-per-view that I get most excited for every year because it's fun. It is always it's fun. The Royal Rumble is the standard when it comes to Battle Royals. Just that simple. So, Cody's back and I'm happy and I'm glad they're promoting it, and Cody's going to win the Royal Rumble, but I'm going to talk about that more when I do an actual Royal Rumble prediction. When we run down the preview. And we'll talk about The Rock again and how that makes absolutely no sense. But it's WWE, right? And Triple H is taking suggestions from Vince, but Vince defers to Triple H. If you don't mind, I'm just going to take a pause from the regular podcast setup here, and just going to go see what we have here right now in regards to Jay Briscoe. Dave Meltzer does say that he was in an auto accident. 2 people in a car crash died in an accident at 5:30 p.m. in Laurel, Delaware. Jesus Christ, man. This is like a cruel twist of fate type of situation here. Okay? This is what yes, they're Ring of Honor stalwarts, right? These are the top, they essentially identify with the brand. You can't think Ring of Honor without the Briscoes and vice versa, right? But they've always been considered great workers, fantastic tag team, legendary, despite the year that they had alongside FTR. And now they get to the point where they're going to get even more exposure, right? They're like on, yes, okay. We know all the shit about TNT and, Turner not wanting them on television and all that stuff, but they had never had this much exposure in their entire career towards so many wrestling fans. And there were a lot of people who were discovering the Briscoes over the past 12 to 18 months. Let's let 2022. And they truly were on the cusp of really breaking into a larger mainstream consciousness. The matches that they had with FTR just consecrated that. That's a tragic twist of fate right there. And they truly were one of the greatest tag teams of the past 2 decades. Jay was oftentimes considered a prodigy, like one of these, when he was very young. They started in Ring of Honor very, very young. They must have been 18, 19 at the most. And Jay was considered to be one of these savants, when it comes to wrestling, just getting in the ring and becoming, just picking everything up so easily. Yeah, listen, we're going to carry on with the recording of the podcast. But I feel for Mark. I feel for the entire Briscoe or Pugh family. And they were posting pictures today. There was one with a hat. It's like new hat, and I was like, okay, are they trying to start something with Jake Hager? No. This is the type of thing that I prefer to just give it some time, let it breathe, so that we can come back to it when we have a clearer indication of what's going on. But 38 years old, Jay Briscoe passed away. I'm floored, man. I'm completely floored. Just like I said earlier. Tell your loved ones you love them. You know what's happening next week in the wacky world of World Wrestling Entertainment, which is a wacky world of entertainment? Raw XXX. Raw is XXX. The Attitude Era is back, baby. You go on the Google machine and you look for Raw XXX, And what do you find? You find anything but the show you're trying to find information on. It's a swerve, baby. Vince Russo is back, baby. You were expecting something, you got something else. Woo! XXX, it means 30. What else did you think it meant? It's the era of innuendo. We're back with it. Brandon Candia, nice to see you and welcome. And here, and at the same time, look, this is what we have. We've got, people actually wondering, now that Sheamus and Drew McIntyre are a team calling themselves the Banger Bros. Is WWE aware of an adult film production company called Bang Bros? Yes, they absolutely are. What are you talking about? Do you think that was an accidental tag team name? I'm telling you guys, y'all who wanted the Attitude Era back, it's sneaking back. We're getting the funny sex jokes coming back in. The one thing, like strudel. You remember when The Rock would want to offer up his strudel? That's funny. When he was a fan of pie? Banana cream pie? Nope. Coconut cream pie? No, not that kind of pie, you silly goose. What are you talking about? Okay. So that's happening next week. As a casual WWE fan, I of course am invested in this. And to be fair, they're booking the shit out of this show. Like for a show that is just a couple of weeks before a big PLE, one of the biggest shows of the year for them. This is strong. This is a strong show. Steel cage match, Becky Lynch versus Bayley. Right now, it's one of the biggest women's matches they can put on. The Raw tag team titles are going to be on the line. Not the Universal tag team titles, but the Raw tag team titles. Usos versus Judgment Day. That's been being built for weeks. And the United States title, Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley. Again, that's being built up. Making the U.S. title feel like a big deal, that you can be like, yeah, you know what? We can main event with this. We can main event our show with the U.S. title. That's some proper rehabilitation right there. That's good shit. So you look at that, and it is a strong show for WWE. That's something that you're like, okay, all of this rules. Then on top of that, you have the legends returning: The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair, Kurt Angle, the Bella Twins, Road Dogg, Jesse James, X-Pac, Ron Simmons, Teddy Long, and Jerry the King Lawler have all confirmed their presence next week. Plus, as if all of this celebration wasn't enough, the Bloodline Acknowledgement Ceremony with undisputed WWE Universal Champion Roman Reigns, alongside his family members of the Bloodline and Rikishi and Samu. We're getting the Samoan SWAT team back together. No, Rikishi wasn't in the Samoan SWAT team, I don't think. Right? Look, could be. My memory's a little fake. I know Samu was Tonga Kid, whatever. So this is where we're at right now. So we have all of this, and we have now outside of the solid card that they have set up. You've got we're going back to the pool, and it's like, ratings boost, bring in the legends, right? This is what it's for. This is what they do. And this is why, again, I failed to tell you that we're in a new era of WWE, because we're doing exactly the same things that we've always been doing. We're still hanging around, bringing in the old guys, and people, a lot of these old guys, we don't even miss them, because they're still, okay, look, I'm trying to say too many things at once, but look, The Undertaker, It hasn't even been a full year since we last saw him on WWE TV. It's been a full year. It hasn't even been a full year since the Hall of Fame. So what are we even doing? Shawn Michaels, he's on TV all the time. Kurt Angle was on SmackDown, what, a month ago? A month and a half ago, at the most. Ric Flair, this is part of some type of reconciliation, I guess, to bring Ric Flair back onto TV, give him a payday. He's been saying so many nice things about WWE these days. You know, so that stuff has to happen. Road Dogg, who in their right mind considers Road Dogg any kind of legend in the wrestling business? Let's get real here. Sean Waltman, look, the whole D-Generation X crew had their own evening last fall, and that entire thing bombed. It was awkward as hell. Everyone was like, what are we doing? What are these people doing? Ron Simmons is always there every time they do it. And you know what he's there to do? He's there to go and walk into frame and go, damn! That's all they got for him. Teddy Long, Vince McMahon's new best friend. And Jerry Lawler is on every talking head segment that they have for the PLEs and what is it, not WWE, the bit, the bomb, the bite, the what do they call it? Their talk show that they do. Anyway, most of these guys are like, well, they're not we see them all the time. Have people had the opportunity to miss The Undertaker that much? Is that the big, The Undertaker, remember him? Yeah. Yep. Like, there's nothing that feels legend. There's nothing that feels old timer. These are all people. Most of these people still work for WWE. And the Bellas are still all over television and whatnot. I mean, it's cool that they're there. Don't get me wrong. I much prefer to have the Bellas on this kind of shit than Jerry Lawler. Trust me. But they're on TV all the time. They have their podcast. They have the bar game show, Barmageddon. They have all of that stuff going for them. If anything, these are women that are like, you know what, we're good with the wrestling business. You know, we've done our part. So I don't know why people get excited for Legends Nights on Raw, because they are always the same thing. They're going to have these very awkward segments where they're going to have some of the mid-card legends interact with some of the mid-carders backstage. Then we're probably going to have a 7-minute Undertaker entrance, right? You know, and look, in the chat, was it at least bring in like the Iron Sheik or Jim Duggan? You can bring in anyone at this point. You're you're not Vince McMahon, you're WWE. Everyone has worked for you at some point. You could bring anyone in at this point. Bring us faces that we don't typically see. And put them forward here. That's like, seeing Road Dogg and Shawn Michaels and Kurt Angle, Lawler. They're on TV all the time. They're all over WWE programming. What are we doing? Like, this isn't special. It doesn't feel special. Look, I know there's a bunch of people they'd probably love to have on the show that work for the other place now. So, I'm sure. And, WWE is also pretty good at burning bridges with certain staff. So, there's probably people who are like, no, fuck you. I'm not going back out there. Look, this is not for me. Despite the fact that I am a casual WWE fan, which is what they want, but this is not for me. People who are constantly on WWE television at different moments. Ric Flair, who's had 70 million send-offs and is still, somehow always makes it into view. Like, he doesn't feel special, and that's that's by his own design. He doesn't feel like the legend he should be by design. Those are his choices that have brought us to this point. I don't know anyone who's sitting back home going, yeah, Ron Simmons. No disrespect. I think Doom is one of the best tag teams that WCW had at the time. And The Undertaker, we haven't missed The Undertaker. They were selling Undertaker NFTs. They're promoting his comedy show, whatever the hell he's doing. Come on now, enough's enough. Enough's enough. And I promise you, awkward segments, we're going to have, like I said, the mid-card legends interacting with mid-carders backstage. But here's the one thing everyone's predicting, and I'm throwing my chips into this as well. I think Vince shows up at Raw 30. Or sorry, XXX. I think he does. And Skylar Rose, nice to see you. Well, I'm not surprised Steve Austin is not there, because Steve Austin understands that he is an attraction that you should save for a special moment like WrestleMania. That makes sense to me, actually. Why would you trot out Austin to come and, play poker? And here's another thing, they can't even use JBL as one of the legends, which they've been doing, right? But they can't even use him anymore. So what do you want? You bring Steve Austin in to play poker with fucking Ron Simmons and JBL and Lawler? Is that what you pigeonhole him into? Come on now. No, they know Stone Cold is special. They're not going to trot him out for this. Maybe his fee is a little too high too. Which I hope it is. I hope he has that kind of maneuvering. Impact Wrestling had a pay-per-view a couple of days ago. Impact Wrestling Hard to Kill 2023, one of their big shows of the year. Big double main event, which ended up being, a single main event, but that's fine. I prefer that to double main events. I still think double main events are corny. The match that goes on last is your main event. There's no double main event. To me, double main event means you have two main event matches running at once, and which would be complete chaos. Actually, that might be actually kind of fun if done properly. But back to Impact Wrestling. Going to give you a review here of Hard to Kill 2023. You know what? And I said this on the pre-stream, warming up to all of this tonight. I thought I was cranky on Friday. Maybe I was tired. Maybe my slippers didn't feel. I put on my slippers and they were cold. No one warmed them up for me. Maybe my soda was a little flat. I don't know. I watched the show and I was like, this isn't great. Fuck Impact. But then I rewatched it. I took that because I woke up on Saturday and it was like, you know what? I got to rewatch it. I'm going to take the time. I'm going to fire it back up and I'm going to watch the show because I could feel it the next morning. I was like, I felt better, lighter. And I was like, maybe just last night I wasn't in the mood to watch pro wrestling, right? Which is entirely possible. It happens. Occasionally. Doesn't happen very often. But so I give it another chance and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I did because on the rewatch, there's a lot of things that came across better. I thought it was a pretty good wrestling show. Not perfect. I thought it was a good effort. Let's talk about it. Show opened up. We're gonna skip over the pre-show. I didn't think the pre-show was all that great, despite the fact that there was a bunch of talent on including Kushida and Speedball Mike Bell. I thought that was I thought it was forgettable. Let's move on to the main card. Impact World Title. Full Metal Mayhem match, which is code for, hardcore no DQ match. Slap people around with aluminum trash cans. Josh Alexander successfully retained the Impact World title against Bubba Ray. Bubbly Ray. There's a couple of things that shock me, and about the wrestling community sometimes, and websites that I frequent, such as Cage Match, that have ratings and whatnot. And while I'm putting things together and getting my notes together, head to Cage Match and I take a look at the ratings, and the inmates rated this as 7.56 out of 10. Which would make this a strong 3 3.75 stars if you want to use some other guy's rating system. And I did not see this. I don't see it. I thought it was well worked. I think it was a completely okay hardcore match, but there was just more than enough nonsense in this to take me away from it. But Warren, the story, Jesus Christ. I don't need 3 different story bumps, 2 of which had no implication, really had no involvement in the match themselves, had no towards the result of the match. I didn't need 3 different, very ham-fisted story bumps in this match. I really didn't, and you didn't either. What I needed was Josh Alexander doing his goddamn best, just continuously being a bright star for Impact Wrestling, for wrestling in general. And carrying this, carrying Bubba Ray, who's whose excuse now is where's the heat? Because if he goes, where's the heat? I'm getting heat. Then that means that, he doesn't have to work. Bubba Ray attacks him before the bell, him being Alexander. Josh Alexander, but Josh, right? Not Jason. Josh Alexander blades. Bubba Ray puts him through a table. Alexander clogs Bully Ray with a cheese grater. They have one of those. Wails on him with a trash can and then slices him with the grater. And we get tacks really early on. And the tacks were insignificant in this match. They really were. And no, let's keep going. See, Bully Ray topples Josh Alexander off a ladder onto the tacks, which was a big bump, which got Tom to blurt out "You gotta be kidding me," channeling Don West, which they paid tribute to at the start of the show. Alexander lands a rolling senton, strangles Bully Ray with the chain while he has him in an ankle lock. Then there's a couple of dudes who run in. It's Bubba's minions, Hutch and Skyler, which actually sound like kids and the names that kids have in kindergarten these days. They 3D Alexander on the tacks, but Bully Ray ends up falling on the tacks much more than Alexander did. The tacks were superfluous at this point. They use zip ties to tie Alexander up in the ropes, and Tommy Dreamer arrives. And I saw that there's history there, that there's recent angles with that, so I know it makes sense in the angle. Dreamer comes out, and Bully Ray gives Dreamer a trash can so he can attack Alexander, but instead he swerves Dreamer and spears him through a table. Tommy Dreamer still to this day has not learned that he cannot trust anyone in this business. Any friends that he has just ends up doing nonsense, and it served nothing. It didn't, this spot slowed the match down so much for no reason, because Tommy Dreamer, moving forward, stayed sandwiched in the table, in the ring for the rest of the match and did not move. I had people tell me, well, that's great. That means he's selling his table spot like he should. What do you mean like he should? He never sold it that long when he was in ECW. Well, he's older now, Warren. Jesus Christ. Look, if you want people to sell table spots like it's 1995, there is innumerable tape libraries from 1995 out there. Now, table spots are very, very different. Very, very, very different. And people get back up from them. It's something else. You know why? Because the business has changed. The business has changed. So I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, good job, Tommy Dreamer, for selling a table like, quote unquote, like it should. Like while you were in ECW, you never sold it even it was never sold like that. Like, and then the entire second half of the match, Tommy Dreamer not even moving, like he's dead. Fuck off now. Especially and I'm not going to cheer him on when I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense in our day and age. This is like saying, you know what? I hate the theater today because no one uses Shakespearean prose anymore. I'm like, look, go watch Shakespeare. But the theater has evolved throughout all these years. Like, these things don't make sense anymore. I can't stand people. I remember when super kicks were finishers. Well, good for you. I do too. But they're not anymore. They're transitional moves. So are DDTs. So are superplexes. There's so much to get angry about if you want to get angry about it. We're just slowly leaving, slowly slipping out of the destroyer as a transitional move discourse now. We're just getting out of it. This was dumb, and it really slowed everything down. It took a lot of gas, a lot of energy out of the room. Your English is very good, Skylar Rose. Your English is very good. Don't worry about it. And then Alexander's wife, because she's involved again. And this is something that, I'm kind of exhausted at this. I'm kind of exhausted at every angle. It seems that, whenever Josh Alexander gets involved in this big time angle, it has to involve his family. Don't touch my wife. Don't fuck with my kids. Like, I get it, and it's cool, but is this like the third time in this, in the past year that 18 months that he's done this? Let's move on. Let's try something else. But it's heat, Warren. Yeah, but you see the point? You see the point? It's like it's heat when, you do it, but then when it's the third time you do it, it kind of feels like reheated. Anyway, she comes in, she low blows Bully Ray, she frees Alexander from the zip ties. There's shenanigans that happen. A ladder splash by Alexander. Finally gets the ankle lock in to get Bully Ray to tap out. As I said, like overall, this was well worked, but for my personal tastes, there's too much nonsense slowing down look, Skylar and Hutch, I swear, Skylar and Hutch run in, right? And they get punked out by Tommy Dreamer, right? That's why Tommy Dreamer comes out. It's to take out Skylar and Hutch, if memory serves me right. And they just disappear for the rest of the match. They did nothing outside of bringing Tommy Dreamer, which added nothing to the match. So and Skylar and Hutch, they got beat down and they evaporated. They disappeared like Uncle Howdy after a commercial. And I saw a lot of people going, I love this match. Bubba Ray can still go. I'm like, what are we even doing? What is this? No. This is not even close to being that good. Impact World Title Tag Team 4-Way Elimination Match. The Motor City Machine Guns defeated the Bullet Club duo of Ace Austin and Chris Bay, the duo of Heath and Rhino, and the major players, Brian Myers and Matt Cardona. So here's one of my criticisms from most Impact cards. And it's not just this one here, but now I'm starting to feel fatigue in this regard. Multi-person matches galore on these cards, right? So many multi-person matches with too many people, and sometimes you wonder why. Like Heath and Rhino, why were they in this match? I don't understand, because they got eliminated they didn't even make it to 4 minutes. Convinced. Bullet Club team eliminated the major players. You know what? And the Motor City Machine Guns eliminated Bullet Club to win here. So they get eliminated first. Chris Bay in this one had a great 1-on-2 segment with Myers and Cardona, just like absolute fire stuff. And then it ends up being the match that I would have wanted to see. Straight up. I don't know why we added all of these, all of this other nonsense. This match lasted 13 minutes. I could have taken 13 minutes, bar none, between Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin versus Chris Bay and Ace Austin, which I am really glad that they're sticking to their Super Junior Tag League duo, because they rocked in Super Junior Tag League. They were one of the teams that made that made the tournament fun and special. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited that they're continuing down this path. The Machine Guns hit the Magic Killer. Huge Sidewinder kick by Chris Bay at some point. I was just like, wow, this is absolutely fantastic. And for some reason, Myers and Cardona interfere in the match, allowing the Motor City Machine Guns to, please don't tell Alex Shelley, the Motor City Machine Guns to land the dirt bomb. But they get involved in that. Why are they interfering? Who cares? Why would they care at this point? Warren, they are interfering to keep the Bullet Club from winning because Bullet Club cost them the match. I'm like, sure, but we could also get a clean resolution. There were 8 people in this match. I don't know. Impact Digital Media title match. Joe Henry defeats Moose, which was fantastic news. I can't review Moose matches. I just can't. The big story coming out of this match is Santino Marella coming in to become the director of authority, and he's got a little plastic, sheriff's badge, a little constable badge that he picked up at Party Central, that he's got around his neck, and he's the director of authority. Super serious director of authority, not comedy wrestler. Santino Marella is your director of authority, right? And this is the kind of shit that gives me pause with Impact. This is part of the problems that I have, because Marella, I'll tell you one thing. Marella is one of these guys that in 5 years, he's going to be on the WWE Legends shows, because then they're going to go back and they're like, oh yeah, remember how funny he was? Great comedy spot. Remember the Cobra? That was fun. He'd put on a sock painted up like a cobra. And yet that'd be funny, right? It'd be a snake like a cobra. It was funny. So I get it. I get the idea. You're putting the comedy guy as your director of authority. How wacky. But they do a dusty finish here. They pull a dusty finish. So already I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys, come on. With Santino Marella, who on top of that runs a wrestling school out of Toronto, Ontario, here in Canada, where he's, he booked Marty Skrull to do some seminars with the young trainees at his school. Like, come on, Jesus Christ. No one was clamoring for the return of Santino Marella. I'll tell you how unimportant, how I'll tell you how unimportant all of this is, how this Santino Marella stuff is. He is such a footnote and forgettable that WWE let the trademark on the Santino Marella name go. They didn't even re-up it. They didn't renew it. They just abandoned it. Anthem in December picks it up. So that's why they're able to use the Santino Marella name. Because WWE is like, who cares? I don't know, man. That does nothing for me. And in a context where this is a Moose match on top of it all, I'm like, this is a -5 stars for me. Nothing good out of this. And it just gives me another reason to not watch the show. Like, I don't want to see I am fine without having Santino Marella on my TV. I don't want him back. He's a mid wrestler who just was ready to he was capable of making Vince McMahon laugh. So Vince was like, let's go do it. Dress yourself up as a girl, go into the Royal Rumble. Like all that bullshit. He's a guy who made the boss pop. The boss put him on the show. Falls Count Anywhere in Atlanta match where Steve Maclin defeated Rich Swann. I would have probably enjoyed this match more if it hadn't been for the pre-tape part of the show. Because yes, we had what was the term we were using? It was a cinematic match to begin with. Because they were wrestling outside. Now, to their credit, they did wrestle. The stip was pins can happen anywhere in Atlanta. Well, they wrestled on the street. They wrestled out on the street and in the building, like in the parking lot. So I'll give them credit for that. It wasn't just like for show. But the whole first part of the match was a cinematic match, and I was like, oh man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And it's not that exciting, and it's dark, and it's lit well enough, but you could tell it's not live. I was like, the minute that I realized that this was pre-taped, I was like, who cares? Like, and then when they cut to the arena where they were actually, doing it, where there was actually live action, like the transition was so sudden. Like they were backstage and all of a sudden, they're coming out, they're on the ramp and they're finally like, holy shit, okay, like we're not letting anything breathe. We're, no suspension of disbelief here. It's just like a hard cut. Anyway, once Swann and Maclin got to the ring, then I thought things started to cook. I thought they worked really hard. Maclin hit a running powerbomb off the apron to the floor. KIA on the ramp for the win. Just great stuff. Really great, strong stuff by the both of them. But I couldn't get into it. And it just was not long enough. The good stuff was not long enough. It was good enough for me to not sit here and bury the whole thing like I did with the fucking Santino Marella bullshit. But I really wished it, at the very least, should have been live. Better yet, avoid it completely. just have the guy, because I like Steve Maclin. I think he's very good. I think he's an intense powerhouse. I think there's a need for more and more guys like him in the business. I don't know. I feel like I skipped a match. I did skip a match. Impact's knockout title. Number 1 contendership. 4-way match. See, another multi-person match. Masha Slamovich defeats Deonna Purrazzo, Killer Kelly, and Taylor Wilde. I thought this was okay. It was pretty good. Dives by Wild and Diana on the early on. Senton Atomico by Masha Slamovich. Standing Moonsault by Diana Perazzo. Slamovich boots Killer Kelly over and over again, then hits a German. Killer Kelly fights back. Shotgun dropkick to the back of Taylor White's head, and she, like, just her head bounces off of the turnbuckles. Just like gnarly stuff. Killer Kelly lands a DVD on Taylor White as well and locks in the killer clutch on Diana Perazzo, followed by a crossface by Taylor White, but Masha Slamovich just runs in, snow plows onto everyone and pins Taylor White for the win. Again, like, it was fine. I think it was well worked, but this could have been a one-on-one match and it would have been much more dramatic. I don't know what putting all four of these women in together served here outside of protecting Slamovich and Perazzo and Killer Kelly and giving, Taylor Wilde being there to eat the pin. And especially in such a short match, you put four people in a match that lasts under 10 minutes, it doesn't connect. It doesn't connect. The work was fine, don't get me wrong. There's some weird decisions. Eddie Edwards defeated Jonathan Gresham. So this is interesting here, right? Because this is a match where we have Eddie Edwards and Jonathan Gresham fighting for the honor of Ring of Honor on Impact Television. Dawn on anyone how weird it is? But despite the premise being weird, this was a very strong match. I thought this was very good. And Gresham dictates everything from the start. He hits a pescado, and he's outclassing Eddie Edwards wrestling-wise until Edwards hits a power slam. Assisted jawbreaker by Edwards. He beats up Jonathan Gresham nice and proper. Blue Thunderbomb follows. Gresham fights back, hits a lion salt and a dive. The final stretch of this match, pretty primo. Pretty good stuff. But Eddie Edwards rallies Tiger Driver and the Boston Knee Party, for the win. I thought this was very good. I thought, the premise is strange. The premise is a little offbeat. Why would, what it really makes you wonder, what kind of message they're sending out here. Is Tony Khan's Ring of Honor not the Ring of Honor? What are we doing? And we know what happened with Jonathan Gresham. Why hasn't Eddie Edwards been signed? So on and so forth, So, I don't know. Does this mean Ring of Honor is dead for Impact? In the Impact verse? In the Impact zone? Jokes aside, this was a very good match. It turned out to be my favorite until we got to Mickie James versus Jordynne Grace, the last rodeo for the Impact Knockouts title or Mickie James's career. It turns out Mickie James won the match. Now, I'm going to talk about the match first. This is all about strength for Jordynne Grace to begin with, right? They call her the Juggernaut, right? So she comes in and she's like the immovable force, slaps, they start slapping each other, and Jordynne Grace just like lands one right on Mickie James, right on the face, and James tumbles. Had to be the easiest sell of all time. Big double stomp by, Mickie James lands a Thez press, big double stomp by Grace. James hits a top rope bulldog, and she tries to take down Grace and finally does so with a kick. Lands a rope walk, seated senton as well to the outside. Stalling superplex by Jordynne Grace. Lands it and rolls right into a jackhammer. Fantastic stuff. The spot. God, I love this kind of shit. She's on the second turnbuckle. She has Mickie James up in the air, stalling there for 4, 5, 6 seconds. Blam, lands her, holds on to her, jackhammer. Just great stuff. Then lands a huge spine buster. Then a cross-arm powerbomb. The ladies go in and out of pins. And then we get into this final stretch, which is great stuff. DDT by Mickie James. The Mick DT, I should say. Jordynne Grace is able to avoid getting pinned. Jordynne Grace, in fact, gets Mickie James into a rear choke. Now, here's the problem with this match, is that at this moment, Mickie James taps. She goes like this on Jordynne Grace. And the ref clearly sees it, but doesn't call it. But everyone else in the audience sees it. There's a fucking close-up on it. We see Mickie James tap. The audience is chanting, "You tapped out." I know it wasn't the finish. And the referee was probably told, "You call the finish like the finish." I hate this kind of shit. It makes everyone look bad. I prefer everyone then leaning into the fact that, well, we fucked up. Now we have to readjust our creative here. Of course, that would have meant that Mickie James's career would have been ended and it fucked up the entire ending of the show. I get it. But you see, this is something then when I think back about this match, it's like, it's something where I go, this fucking sucked. And I don't know why Mickie went like this. She knew she was winning. At least I hope so. I hope they weren't calling this on the fly. Anyway, Mickie James gets out, but we get right back into another rear naked choke. There's this great spot where Jordynne Grace has her in a fireman's carry, and then she runs her into the turnbuckles like an Oklahoma Stampede, but she has her up on her shoulders, which was great. And then Mickie James out of nowhere hits a tornado DDT for the win. So I'm like, was this actually the planned finish? Because a tornado DDT, a little out of nowhere, feels a little strange. Like, I know Mickey's finisher is a DDT. It just felt a little out of nowhere. Did they improvise the finish? Look, I don't know. But overall, this turned out to be my match of the night because I thought, despite the tap, I thought this was really good. Amazing final stretch. And here's something we don't talk enough about. This is something we don't talk enough about. We talk a lot about it with the dudes, with the guys. We're going to talk about wrestlers who are, in their late 40s, into their 50s, and they're like, man, that dude can still go, and he's still delivering, and Jesus, can you believe it? He's 48 years old, he's 45, he's 56, he's 62, and he can still go. Can you believe that? But we don't have that conversation about Mickie James, who is 43 years old and delivered a hell of a match. Like, you want to talk about people who can still go. She can still go and goes a little more solidly than a lot of people on that roster, quite frankly. I thought this was a very well-worked performance. This was a very, very well-worked match. I enjoyed it tremendously. And another great match for Jordynne Grace over there on Impact while she's, I think there's a common thread here with great women's matches in Impact. Her and Masha, anyway. I'm going to tell, but the one thing though, look, they were building, and throughout the evening and on the pre-show and all that, they were building, right? The last rodeo. And you got people saying thank you to Mickie James. You have the former Victoria, Tara, as they say in Britain. She's out there to support her friend, and she's all in tears, and is she going to win? And we're all saying, Mickie James is going to lose, right? And they do the whole celebration, with they do some kind of Native American celebration to begin with, to start things off, which was pretty cool. hearkening Mickey James's Native American ancestry, right? So they have all of that going, and they're working this really, really hard at this, they call it the last rodeo, and you're like, okay, well, this is the end. But no, she ends up winning the Impact title. Her career goes on. But then they have the whole family come in to celebrate, and it's like, and you have the kids and and I'm like, she won a title. Yes, she protected her career, but she won a title. Wouldn't you have had the whole family come in to cry and hug and, give her a standing ovation and all that? Isn't that why you bring in the family now? Because this is not Mickey James's first title championship in Impact or elsewhere. Why suddenly the family is all there to celebrate this night in particular, right? Look, I don't quite understand the finish, like the post-match celebration. I'm like, what? Okay, then Mickey James is still good. She's still ready to go. That's fine. But they worked us. They worked me. I was convinced that this was Mickey James's last match. That's why I was very excited to watch it. Not that I don't want Mickey James to stop wrestling, because I'm like, look, if this is going to be our last match, I want to watch it. This is more what I meant. Don't misconstrue me here. But we end up looking at all of this, and I'm like, all right, well, I got worked. We all got worked, and that's wrestling for you. Impact Hard to Kill 2023. It's a hard show for me to recommend. If you want to enjoy two pretty good wrestling matches, two strong wrestling matches, I think the two final matches of the card are very good. I think it's strong stuff. I think the rest is entirely passable. I think you can skip over it without a problem. But there's nothing here on this card where I'm outright like, drop everything, go watch this match. I can't recommend the card, but there's the top two matches of the show are fun. Like if you have 40 minutes to spare or so, seek them out. You won't be bored, and you'll see worse. So if you're like, I just want something that a palate cleanser, maybe you just watch something absolutely dreadful. And you're like, and I just need a palate cleanser. Drop in Mickey James and Jordan Grace. You'll have a good time. Because now we are going to finish off the show previewing some New Japan shows coming up. There's quite a few shows coming up over the next few days and weeks even, in regards to New Japan Pro Wrestling. And so I'll tell you one thing. The New Japan right now is on, I think, an upward trend of momentum. I think it's I think there's something right now in the air for New Japan that makes it feel good, look. Wrestle Kingdom was a success critically. They did good business as well. I think there's a lot of good to come out of it. Even out of New Year's Dash, I think there's some new, fresh directions that are happening in the company that feel good for longtime fans. And I'm excited to see where this is going to lead us. So we've got some shows coming up, some New Beginning shows. But before we get to the New Beginning shows, we have the Noah Wrestle Kingdom 17 Night 2 show, as they call it, in Yokohama this week. And it is the New Japan Noah crossover show. And this is taking place this weekend. I'm really excited about it, and will air live on New Japan World. But it is a pay-per-view, so it's not covered in your Nuge subscription. You do have to pay a little extra for that. I believe it's about like $30 American, if my memory serves me right. It is the second time that New Japan and Noah hold a co-promoted Wrestle Kingdom card. They did one last year. They had night 3 of Wrestle Kingdom. We could also not call it a Wrestle Kingdom show, and that's fine because Wrestle Kingdom's already been like 2 weeks ago. But this is interesting, and if anything, this one is much more better built than last year's. This is actually the culmination. This is what happened last year. I feel like there's a lot of people who've forgotten this, but at the crossover show last year, the highlight of the show was a match between the factions, LIJ, Los Ingobernables de Japón, over on the New Japan side, versus the Noah guys, represented by Congo, the other big faction in Noah, and they had it was a multi-man match that created that great moments and some really nail-biting moments where you're like, I want more of this. Like, this was it was the highlight of the show, it was the best match of the show, and was the one that left you wanting more out of this. You had a lot of taunting between Keno and Tetsuya Naito last year, where Keno's a hothead, he's always mad, and Naito was just, nice and cleanly just being taunting him from the ring, and just being 100% Rudo Tetsuya Naito. Now which would just piss him off. So that's been like in the air since then, and now we come back to this. So the Congo guys showed up at Wrestle Kingdom after the LIJ match that Naito, Sanada, and Bushi were involved in, and they show up backstage during their comments, and it's like, even on commentary they're saying, we're being told that the Congo guys from Noah have invaded backstage and they're attacking LIJ. I'm like, oh, okay, this is great. So you get to see the post-match comments and all that stuff. It was really, really great. So since then they've been building slowly. Now LIJ this week showed up at a Noah event, and they taunted the Congo guys. They forced them to sign a T-shirt, which was great. Basically, what I'm saying here is that the essential part of this card here is put together on the back of LIJ versus Congo. And I'm all for it. I think this is an interesting card. Let's see what we have here. The pre-show has Kosei Fujita and Raihoi Oiwa taking on Yasutaka Yano, and Taishi Ozwa. So basically and the second pre-show match is Oscar Lube and Tomohiro Ishii versus Daiki Inaba and Masaki Tamiya. So combination of stalwarts here in New Japan, plus some young lion action, young and up and comers. So that'll be fun on the pre-show. Then we got Takashi Sugiura, Satoshi Kojima, Toru Yano, and Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on Gedo, El Fantasmo Kenta, and Naomichi Marufuji. Nice little mix here between the New Japan guys and the Noah guys. I know Kojima's been wrestling mostly in Noah recently. He's been doing a lot of stuff there, but he's back, hanging out with Yano and Tanahashi. Then on the Bullet Club side, essentially, you have Gedo, El Fantasmo, Kenta, and Kenta getting back into the swing of things with his old partner, Marufuji, who had a very good match. They had a very good tag team match at the Noah the New Year show, or earlier this year, a couple of weeks ago, which was very good. So they're bringing that tag team dynamic back again. So that's pretty fun. So I have El Desperado versus Yohei, which is going to be the junior tag, not junior tag, but just a junior heavyweight match of the evening that's not involving the LIJ fellas. Glad to see Desperado on this card, and Yohei as well. And another multi-man match, Master Wato, Taguchi, and Tiger Mask will be taking on Alejandro, Junta Mayawaki, and Amakusa. This will turn out into a comedy match. Togi Makabe and Kazuchika Okada will be taking on Yoshiki Inamura and Kaito Kiyomiya. So this one is one we're kind of all looking forward to. Seeing some more Okada Kiyomiya action. Kaito Kiyomiya right now is the GHC world champion over there in Noah and considered by many to be the ace of the company. Okada is Okada. What else do you want to say? They were in a multi-man match last year. Was it a tag team match? I'm trying to remember. I can't quite put my finger on it, but they did fight last year. It was very unsatisfactory to me. I wanted more. I wanted a little more physicality. Hopefully, we're going to be able to get it this time around. Makabe and Okada is a fun tag team, and Inamura and Kiyomiya as well. Like this sneaky. This could be absolutely 100% sneaky great. Then we get into the LIJ matches, the ones that matter. No, I'm kidding. I hope they do. You know what? I hope they do a scoreboard. I hope they tally points here. And what it is, it is a best of 5 series, so they are tallying points. I missed that part. It's a best of 5 series match. Match 1, Bushi versus Tadasuke. All signs point to Bushi losing this. That's just what Bushi does. That's just what Bushi does. He's going to lose this one. Then we're going to have Hiromu Takahashi, current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, against Hajime Ohara. I don't see Takahashi as a champion losing here. And I think that if this is the order of the card, you start off with Bushi losing. Well, you want LIJ to bounce back, and what better way to bounce back than having one of the big baby faces here in Hiromu getting the win. Should be a lot of fun. Sanada takes on Manabu Soya. This is good. This match will be good entirely depending on whether Sanada feels like working or not. Because I don't know if you guys and gals and non-binary pals know about Manabu Soya, but he is a big dude. He is a big strapping lad, as they like to say, not that Sanada's a tiny junior. He's a big lad himself, but not the size of Manabu. So a bit of a clash of styles here. I would say Sanada gets the loss here. I think we're going to trade some back and forth here. And if they do that, because here's the thing is, like, I feel like all of this is going to be leading to something else. I don't think we're going to be done with New Japan and Noah necessarily, maybe this year or down the road, maybe further down in a few months or so on and so forth, because all of these losses and wins can be taken back. And I think that in a New Japan environment, I believe like a lot of people will be like, Sanada's going to win this, and giving Soya a bit of an unexpected come from behind win here. I think that's absolutely possible. A surprise victory. And we got Shingo Takagi versus Katsuhiko Nakajima, one of the top guys in Congo, former GHC world champion himself, and all-around shooter. Hopefully he doesn't shoot on anyone in this match, because holy shit. I wouldn't want Shingo shooting on me. I think Shingo wins here. I think Shingo wins here because I feel he's more relevant in the budding New Japan main event scene now than before. Because don't forget, he's going to be Kazuchika Okada's challenger just very, very soon. So I don't see him dropping I don't see him dropping anything here. You could make a case for a draw. You could absolutely make a case for a draw, which which would put a lot of pressure on Congo to tie the series. Because, I think it is possible to go to time on some of these matches. None of these are championship matches, so it means it's a 30-minute time limit. I think it would be possible to go that far and to end the match and to end the show on an unconclusive note. I think that's possible. But let's say that, we don't want that. Let's say we want finishes. I think Shingo wins. There's much more value to New Japan keeping him looking strong. And I think Nakajima is on he's on a humbling tour right now. He's not as big a deal as he was in Noah, just about a year ago. He's not pushed as hard is what I'm trying to say, because in the minds of many, he's still very much a big deal. But I think, with his outbursts, his shoot knockouts, during the course of 2022, I think there's a bit of the booking that's going on right now. And it's like, look, you're going to take a back seat to Keno here for a while, and you're going to do what you're told, kind of thing. I'm excited for this match nonetheless, because these guys are going to beat the shit out of each other. Takagi and Nakajima, what are you talking about? This is going to be fighting spirit personified. This is going to be wild. I'm stoked for this one. And then the main event should be Tetsuya Naito versus Keno. And I'm going to commit sacrilege here, but Keno should win. Because Keno's a big deal in Noah. And honestly, what is the value of having Naito go over here? Naito has nothing right now. You can absolutely put Keno over. And you can absolutely have them have the shocking win, like on a New Japan show, on a Wrestle Kingdom show, having an outsider beating Tetsuya Naito. And Keno, red hot, a fantastic wrestler, and red hot. Do him a favor. Naito has nothing. They've got nothing for Naito. What are you going to do? I don't even know what they're going to do. Like, if the idea is for this LIJ invasion of, LIJ Noah thing to continue, I think it's a good thing for Naito, because it's going to give him something fresh to do. Otherwise, what, you toss him back into another feud with Okada? Yeah, no, you can't do that. We did that twice last year. With Evil, again, who wants that? There's... And he's got nothing. Nothing. Keno's red hot. I think it'll be good for the company. I think it'll be a surprising victory for the Noah camp, for the Congo guys. I think they win the best of 5 series. I can absolutely see it going to a draw. That's coming up this weekend. What else we got? So that's coming up this weekend. Like I said, it is on January 21st. And the very next day, January 22nd, the new beginning shows begin. We start off in Nagoya. I'm going to skip over, just for time's sake here, I'm going to skip over most of the undercard matches. Because everything has something interesting on every one of these new beginning shows. I think this is going to be a really good tour. I think this is going to be a good tour, because there's good stuff everywhere here. I'm interested to see Jado, Master Wato, and Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Taiji Ishimori, El Phantasmo, and Kenta. I think they're pushing for more Ishimori Wato content. And I will not sleep on El Phantasmo this year. I think that there's a lot of stuff happening with the Gaijin and the Bullet Club scene and so on and so forth. I think there's a big open vacant spot there for El Phantasmo to take. They did not bring El Phantasmo up from the juniors to the heavyweights for nothing. There's a plan for this guy. Trust me on that. Huang, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Then we have the United Empire team of Francesco Akira, TJP, Aaron Henare and Will Ospreay taking on just 4 guys. Taka Michinoku, Doki, Yoshinobu Kanemaru, and Taichi. Should be fun. This is what they're going to be continuing to establish. They're going to be continuing to establish they're going to continue to establish Taichi versus Ospreay. That's the one that we are moving towards here. Yo Taguchi, Shota Umino, and Kazuchika Okada taking on the LIJ troupe of Bushi, Hiromu Takahashi, Sanada, and Tetsuya Naito. And the main event is the provisional King of Pro Wrestling 2023 Championship match. Great Khan tries to take the belt away from Shingo Takagi, in an MMA style match. This is the stipulation. It was voted on by the fans. The stipulation was proposed by Okan. The voting was 60% for Okan's stipulation versus 39.3% for Takagi's. In the MMA rules match, each wrestler can wear a martial arts gi, and the bout can only be won by knockout, TKO, or submission. There will also be wrestlers serving as lumberjacks outside the ring for the match. This sucks. I don't like lumberjack matches. And you know, I'm coming in here with apprehensions, but I could end up being surprised because Great Khan and Takagi are very good at what they do. But when I see it's an MMA style match in pro wrestling, I don't like this stuff. Or otherwise just come out and say, you know, we're going to do shoot wrestling. Maybe we're going to end up with something close to blood sport, which is fine. Which is maybe that's what they'd like to say, but they can't because Josh Barnett will come down on them. It could be. But I'm excited to see how this is going to happen, but I am not excited at the prospect of lumberjacks. I hate lumberjack matches. They're stupid. So I don't know why we needed people on the floor to act as lumberjacks. They just could have done the MMA gimmick and move on. This has the potential to stink, and it has the potential to be very good. Now, the question here is Shingo is still moving forward to be Okada's first title defense at the end of this tour. Shingo is the King of Pro Wrestling champion. Does he drop it to Okan? Or does he hang on to it for the rest of the tour? And then there's some kind of, I've heard people say, oh, they should merge the titles. And why would you? There's no reason to merge the history of the KOPW thing to the IWGP World Heavyweight Belt. There's no reason to merge these histories. You know what I mean? I don't know why you'd do that. It's interesting. It's an interesting match, and there's a couple of interesting matches, but in my opinion, this is the weakest of the New Beginning matches. Already in Sapporo, night 1. New Beginning in Sapporo, night 1. Oscar Lube versus Great Khan. That'll be fine. Let's skip over the undercard stuff. Let's go right to the top of the card here. IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship. Doki and Yoshinobu Kanemaru versus Catch 2-2. This should be fun. Catch 2-2 have been a tag team revelation in 2022, and they're going to continue down that sprint. It's been a long time since I've been excited in the junior tag titles in New Japan, so this is where we're at. Will Ospreay versus Taichi is also going to happen. That should rule. Don't sleep on this one. Taichi is going to do the max. He is going to give everything he's got here, and he's got the perfect dance partner to do it. You think Will is going to start resting on laurels? And the main event, Shota Umino in his main event against Tetsuya Naito. All I'm going to say is that Shota Umino is the guy who got the pin in Kaiji Muto's last New Japan match at Wrestle Kingdom. That's all I'm going to say. Interested? Should be. This should come off This match should be a changing of the guard here. This should be a symbol. But I can also absolutely see Gedo going, you know what? He's going to come close, but he can't just beat one of the top guys yet. I can see that. I can see that. Still breaking him in, but it's going to be a hell of a match. Night 2 in Sapporo for the New Beginning show. Let's go right to the top of the card. New Japan World Television Championship match. Tomohiro Ishii versus Zack Sabre Jr. Unrealistically excited about this match. This is going to rule. This is going to rule. This might be the match of the entire tour. This is going to blow your mind. And on top of that, it's going to be free. Because, as we should remind everyone, New Japan World Television Championship matches will be available on New Japan World for free, as well as all their social media outlets. So everyone is going to be able to enjoy this little nugget of greatness. This is going to rule. And the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship will be main eventing. Hiromu Takahashi will be defending against Yo. Again, it is 2023, and I want to go back in time to tell 2020 me, don't hitch your trailer to the show train. Yo's the man. What are you talking? You drunk? No. And then the big one, the New Beginning in Osaka, February 11, last show of the tour. Oscar Luba and Toru Yano taking on Aaron Hanare and Great-O-Khan in the opener. Taguchi Tiger Mask, Shota Umino, and Hanma taking on the LIJ crew. Bushi, Takahashi, Sanada, Tetsuya Naito. Where is what's going on with what's his face? Titan. He's not around. He wasn't around with the Congo stuff, and he's not around for the LIJ Congo match. Like, what's going on? He's an LIJ, isn't he? Master Wato taking on Taiji Ishimori in a special singles match. That should rule. I think Wato is he's finding his footing. I think he's finding himself. It took him a little while, but I think we're getting to something. I think a lot of the goofy poses and the blue hair and all that nonsense, I think that didn't help. But I think he's got something now. Hiroshi Tanahashi versus Kenta is also going to happen. A lot of bad blood there. Hopefully they don't kill themselves this time around. Ren Narita, El Desperado, and Minoru Suzuki will be taking on Sho, Yujiro Takahashi, and Evil, probably, for the six-man titles. This all started at New Year's Dash, right? When Suzuki and Desperado came out to save Narita from the House of Torture. Hopefully it's not too much of a House of Torture match. Then we get the Loser Leaves Japan match. Hikuleo versus Jay White. I am reiterating what I talked about last week. First and foremost, it is a Loser Leaves Japan match, not a Loser Leaves New Japan. The fact that suddenly there were reports popping up over the past 10 days or so that WWE has interest in both Hikuleo and Jay White, I don't think that's a coincidence. This is the match being worked to get excitement, to get people thinking, to throw a blanket of doubt over the entire thing. Either way, I don't think either guy really leaves New Japan. Look, you could make a case for Hikuleo being called up by WWE, and like, sure, that, you know, because people always say, oh, he's big, he's tall, that's what they love. Yeah, but they have a lot of big and tall dudes right now. They really do. Do they need any more? And frankly, you know what? You send them to NXT? Sure, maybe. I don't know, man. Either way, I don't think either guy is done with New Japan. I think the story could be here that Jay White will be leaving Japan. I think that's absolutely a thing because he's got a match set up for the Battle in the Valley show already. So that might be telegraphing something right there. I don't think there's going to be a new a Jay White showing up at the Royal Rumble is what I'm saying. As a surprise. See, that would be a surprise. Because Jay White is a little bit in the same situation as Tetsuya Naito. It's like, what do you do with Jay White in Japan again? Like, what programs do you set him into? Okada, we just got out of that. Go back to Tanahashi? Okay, maybe. I mean, there's history there and so on and so forth. But, we're going to be retreading water once again with Jay White if he sticks around Japan. So probably, very smart thing to do is just to send him to the US. Let him work whatever shows he can here. Let him work some indie shows. Let him pop up on the AEW programming a little bit. And then eventually he comes back. But Warren, he left Japan. He lost the match. Look, this is all storytelling. You can work anything out. It's like people who tell me, well, Cody left AEW because he couldn't be champion because he lost the match. I'm like, come on, guys, this is all storytelling. If they really wanted Cody to be champion, they would have figured out something. If they really want Jay White back in Japan, they'll figure out something. But I think him taking a break from the scene in New Japan for a while, let some new guys take center stage. The Shota Uminos, the Ren Naritas. Have him come over here and fight the likes of Eddie Kingston. I mean, they've been simmering a feud since last summer. Let him have his little things here with Eddie Kingston. This is all going to be dope. Jay White can work wherever he wants. Then he goes back. He goes back at some point, and he's the kingpin. He's the top guy once again. One of the top guys, and he comes in and he challenges. A Will Ospreay Jay White match. Why not save that for when Will is champion? Don't burn it. Speaking of championships, never wait open weight championship. Tama Tonga will be defending against El Fantasmo. I think this is going to be fun. I think you have the perfect heel babyface dynamic here. I think Phantasmo's going to work his ass off here as well. I mean, it should be fun. And the main event, Kazuchika Okada will defend his IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Shingo Takagi. There is no way in hell that Shingo is winning this, but what a fucking match this is going to be. This is going to be great. Because we're going to get main event Shingo. They're going to get Okada. Top of the class. This is what I'm talking about. This is when I say, when I talk about New Japan and I tell people about, world-class wrestlers. This is what this main event is. We're not half-assing it here. These are world-class professional wrestlers. This is going to be a great main event. Both guys are going to be really into it. Shingo's going to go. And you know what? Let's just set some basics here. Because of course, there is storytelling in New Japan and it comes through in matches. Let's set some basis here so that Shingo can eventually get a shot at the title, another shot at the title, another shot at Okada, and win and get a reign in front of the audience, in front of the crowds. Because even Will Ospreay, in an interview recently, said, Shingo is amazing and he deserves to have a championship in front of people. He was the champion during the pandemic and he was outstanding. He put on some great matches, and he and Will put on outstanding matches every time they put on outstanding matches with each other. So maybe, this will be the building blocks to get the belt on Shingo. We'll see. And then we have the Battle in the Valley, which is happening on February 18. Of course, it has now been sold out thanks to Mercedes Moné. Good for her. Since last we talked about it, New Japan added a World Heavyweight Championship match. No participants yet have been announced because we still have to have Kazu versus Shingo. It's going to be the first U.S. defense of the gold since Jay White retained the title in a 4-way match at Forbidden Door. So that will be, that's going to be set up there. I'm going to preview this as we get closer to the event. It's well off in a month, close to my birthday, actually. Happy birthday, Warren. Battle in the Valley is for you. And another match was announced. Eddie Kingston will be challenging Jay White. That'll be good. So we got all these little updates for New Japan. I'm going to tell you, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling New Japan. It's feeling good. It's been feeling good since the G1, really. And even a little bit before that. And I love the fall. Battle Autumn last year was one of my favorite pay-per-views of the year. Wrestle Kingdom started off with a bang. I'm very, very confident in New Japan right now. It feels good. So why not continue feeling good about New Japan? Thank you for all these fantastic matches. And on that note, we are going to wrap up the weekly wrestling inspection. That's about it. We're going to wrap up the entire show, actually. Not just the weekly wrestling inspection, the whole 9 yards. I want to thank everyone for joining me this evening, who popped in live to watch this recording on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. If you ever want to make it live, we start at 7 p.m. Eastern time every Tuesday. So you can pop in, hang around, chit-chat. We talk, we laugh, we cry, we dream, we smell. But the most important part of it all is that we enjoy ourselves. So thank you all very much. If you haven't already, give the video a like. I appreciate that a great deal. And maybe even a subscription. If I worked hard enough for it, I would appreciate that as well. But in the meantime, I will be back on Thursday for my AEW Dynamite review. So be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss that, and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, 5-star rating on Spotify, and I will leave you all alone right now. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Enjoy all the wrestling, and I'll see you next time.